I'm really difficult and really torn about whether or not I should make this video because I have said ever since Brexit I do not want to engage in we I told you so. But in this example, it's so obvious, and to other industries that the Brexiteers championed, it is a very, very cautionary tale because the farming sector was another industry where the Brexiteers were constantly championing. Now, we haven't heard from the farmers because at the moment it is not their time. Obviously, we'll hear from them later in the summer, as predicted, when they can't get the workers to do their planting. And then we'll hear from them again when they can't get the workers again to engage in actual picking their food. And then we will hear from them when they're unable to sell their food to Europe and how that now proves a even bigger problem. And then we'll hear about rotting food from them as well, just as we're hearing about rotting fish from them now. And of course, we will then start to hear again towards the end of the year about small farms closing down because they can't afford that extra paperwork, and being able to sell it to Europe was a massive advantage for them, you know. And this is fantastic because you look back to like November and December of last year, and all of Twitter was just full of like Brexit supporters and Brexiteers supporting fishermen, and now the industry has been completely ghosted by the Brexiteers. They're nowhere to be seen when all these fishermen are like, we're absolutely in trouble. Brexit is causing us so much unnecessary cost. You said this wouldn't happen, but it has. What's going on? You know? And they're nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen at all. And once again, I made the video, a couple of years ago, when I very clearly laid out the entire case. Nigel Farage was never, ever the fisherman's friend. So, as we jump into today's article, please do remember to hit that like and share button, and of course down below there's a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to all the people who do support me that way. So, on with the article. So, this comes from The Guardian, and the title is From Farage's Flotilla to the Rotting Exports. It's the story of Brexit in fish. Every revolution evaporates, declared Kaffir, and leaves behind only the slime of a new bureaucracy. The government's Brexit deal has only gone and done one better, leaving both the slime of a new bureaucracy and heaps of rotting shellfish on the docks as fishermen discover they cannot export them to the European Union. In the public environment and the Reconstitution shrug, the emoticon George Lucas claims, the EU shellfish ban is legally wrong, while in private his department informs the shellfish industry that the opposite is the case. Such is a fine line, which it isn't, between having had enough of experts and having had enough of exports. By even their own standards, however, the Brexiteers' ghosting of the fishermen is something to behold. Every day brings new stories of businesses folding under the weight of red tape and insurmountable non-tariff barriers, and a government response that is basically, I want you to know that what we had was really special, and now I'm also blocking you now. Again, we went over the story of last week. Britain's oldest shellfish port, only in Bridlington, it's in Yorkshire, I couldn't throw a stone at it, it's a bit further than that. But, had to close. And that was a major business in there that made up a large proportion of the council tax revenue, or the business tax rate, shall we say, that Bridlington Council was able to take in. That has now gone. So, anyway, it continues. So, can it really be just 4.5 years ago since the so-called Thames flotilla that hallucinatory moment in the referendum campaign when all sorts of leading Brexiteers joined a large group of fishing boats at Tower Bridge. From there, they would lead them both up the Thames and up the garden path. Along with several journalists that day, I spent many hours aboard a luxury dining vessel with Nigel Farage, Katie Ho, and other misunderstood thought leaders. Also on the river was some kind of pleasure boat commandeered and skippered by Bob Geldof, who appeared to regard the art of captaincy as as consailing chief of flicking V signs while bellowing into a loud hailer and saying things that I have to imagine he thought were helping. I have an unwiped memory of when the UKIP MEP Dave Coburn waved a large morning glass of Sauvignon Blanc at Geldof. "This is what real fishermen look like," Coburn was screaming. "It is simply impossible to imagine an event more deserving of an iceberg. Literally, everyone involved with it on all sides was Billy Zane in the Titanic." So, what were the signs then of where we are now and where we find ourselves? Hand on heart, there was just the vaguest sense that, with the obvious exception of the fishermen themselves, absolutely no combatant in this river battle gave a tenth of a toss about the industry they'd supposedly taken to waters to defend. We already knew that when Nigel Farage sat on the EU's Fishery Committee, he attended a meagre 1 out of 43 meetings. I'm trying to remember whether George Eustace, was on board any of the Leave boats. Certainly, of all the advanced publicity and even the event promised, he would be there, and some reports do place him there, though I cannot recall seeing him myself. As indicated, the day developed into a somewhat sort of fever dream. It would have been easy or wise to have even just bailed on it. Either way, Eustace had completely just published a document in which he explained the maritime case for Brexit, which he promised would make it easier to get things done. In 5 years' time, he stated confidently of its effects on British fishing. The only question we will have to ask ourselves is, what didn't we do sooner? So almost 5 years on, and George, having ascended to the cabinet, is the only question the fishing industry is asking, is negative. And I'm afraid you know things are bad because Michael Gove, who famously only went and did the Brexit to avenge his father's fishing business, has pitched up with one of his famous analogues. We all know that when an aeroplane takes off, that's the point when you sometimes get an increased level of turbulence. He breezed on a range of Brexit endangering horror shows this week, but eventually you reach cruising altitude and the and the crew tell you to take off your seatbelts and enjoy a gin and tonic with some peanuts. You're not at gin and tonic and peanut stage yet, but I'm confident we will be. The nice thing about cruising altitude is that you can't see the little people having a nightmare 30,000 feet below. Out of sight and out of mind, as the chief executive of the Scottish Food and Drink Federation told the Parliamentary Committee last week. The biggest single challenge we're having right now is denial. Denial from the UK government in particular scale of the problem, denial, anger, bargaining, depression and acceptance. Interesting to learn that the 5 stages of industrial manslaughter are the same 5-stage levels of grief. Some Brexiteers seem further along with the process than others, however. Take the aforementioned Katie Ho, who 6 weeks ago was standing up in the House of Lords to pay specific tribute to Boris Johnson's deal, but now angrily claims it betrays Northern Ireland. Katie, you may recall, refused to vote for Theresa May's deal, which itself constituted the basis for an Irish sea border, was unthinkable. As May put it, no UK Prime Minister could ever agree to it. Hey, don't put Boris Johnson in a box, because he'll just have to dig even deeper through that box now. And so it is that the British Prime Minister has since famously agreed to it, although not famously enough that his senior ministers care to even acknowledge it in public. As Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis has repeatedly put it recently, there is no Irish sea border, a statement to which the only reasonable rejoinder is this: there is no Brandon Lewis, there is no Brandon Lewis, and there is no Irish sea border. There is no barrier to trade because there is no one who cares more about the fishing industry than Michael Gove. These are certainly boom times for denial, and indeed with government ministers shipping out hourly, it is arguable that this is our most thriving export. And yeah, I can't agree more to that. The Brexiteers have completely ghosted the fishing industry. It is absolutely, last week there was a story literally every day about fishermen and the problems that they are facing. And, as was said there, the thing we have we have this thing called the River Thames. However, it would be surprising because there are now two Niles in the world. There's the one in Egypt, and of course there's the denial in now London. So, this is the shape of where we are to go, and this was what I've said to expect. Everything will be going, quote, smoothly according to the Brexiteers. Oh, there's just teething problems. They aren't teething problems. These problems are here to stay. But again, this is the denial phase of the of the Brexit agenda. How long this is going to last, we'll have to see. But clearly, Katie Ho has gone from denial straight to anger. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below there's a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.